We're going to go over chapter 1, section 5. So we have inequalities. So let's review the vocabulary. You guys have seen it from last year. You have the inequality symbols. Greater than is more than. Less than is fewer than. Greater than or equal to is at least, but no less than. And less than or equal to is at most, is no more than. So those are the different ways you can say all of them. Greater than looks like this. Well, let me not put a line underneath it. Greater than looks like this. Less than looks like this. Greater than or equal to. And less than or equal to. They look like that. Now, how do you read them? Just a reminder, you read them from left to right as if you were reading a book, like you usually would. So if we go from left to right, we read it from 2, right here, is greater than 1. Why greater? Because the bigger part of the inequality is first, and then it goes to the smallest one. If we read the other one, it'd be 1 is less than 2, because 1, and then it's going to be, well, 1 is smaller than 2. The smaller part of the inequality, and then it's going to go to 2. That's why we read it as 1 is less than, always as if it were a book, left to right. So, solving inequalities. They're asking us to solve y minus 6 is less than 3, and to graph the solution set on a number line. So, some study tip in the right corner. Graphing inequalities, you use a circle. It's used for greater than or less than. And a dot is used for less than or equal to or greater than or equal to. Remember, for inequalities that have greater than or less than is an open circle. And a dot or a closed circle for the greater than or equal to or less than or equal to. Again, we're going to go over how to solve this. For this inequality, I'm going to rewrite it right here. Y minus 6 is less than 3. We're going to go ahead and add the 6 just as if it were an equation, like we usually would. Y is less than 9. You solve inequalities just like you solve equations, except for when you multiply or divide by a negative. That is the one exception when you flip the inequality. We went over it last year, and I'm repeating it again this year. When we have that example, I'll go over it. Now, to graph this, you're going to graph a number line. You can put as little as 3 numbers, as long as you show which side is less and which one is bigger. Since it's less than, it's going to be an open circle. And then we're going to color it to the left. For the quiz or test, you don't have the option to, unless you bring a highlighter yourself or a colored pencil, just make a circle and a way for me to know which way the drawing is going. Right now I'm going to use a highlighter just because we have that option, but we don't always have that option on quiz or test, depending on if you bring a highlighter or you don't bring a highlighter or a colored pencil. So they're asking us to solve the inequality and graph. Again, we start by solving this just as if it were an equation. So I'm going to start by subtracting the 4w on both sides. That's going to give me w plus 3 is greater than 9. I'll then subtract the 3 on both sides, and we get w is greater than 6. Now, great, we have w is greater than 6. Now, to draw it on the number line, we draw a line, 6, 7, 5. An open circle and to the right, because they're telling us that w is going to be greater than 6. So we have to draw the arrow towards the bigger number. Now, for inequalities, I always recommend you guys put the x on the left, or the variable on the left. It could be x, y, z, w, it doesn't matter. Why on the left? Because if it's on the left, you can draw the arrow the same way the inequality symbol is facing. So when I do that, I'll do it both ways so you guys see it. We have 4x subtracted minus 4x. You get x minus 3 is greater than 2. I'll go ahead and add the 3 on both sides, and we get x is greater than 5. Now, following this, when we do the number line, we're going to get 5, 6, and 4, open circle to the right. Now, if you by any chance, I'll do it in a different color, I'll do it in blue. You have 5x minus 3 is greater than 4x plus 2. If you move the x to the right, at the very end, you're going to have to think more than just drawing the same way. I'll show you. So if we do minus 5x, we have negative 3 is greater than negative x plus 2. I'll subtract 2 on both sides, and I get negative 5 is greater than negative x. Now remember, your x, you never want it to be negative. So if you do this, just divide both sides by negative 1. But this is where the exception comes in. Because we are dividing by a negative, we're going to have to flip the sign. So it's going to become 5 is less than x. Now realize that if I rewrite it with the x on the left, it's going to look like this. So the exact same thing we got. Now why do I say you have to think a little more than just drawing the same way? Because if we look at 5 is less than x, that means that x is going to be greater. X is on the bigger side of the inequality, so therefore x is going to increase. So it's going to go the way that it's not necessarily written, but the way you have to deduce it. That's what I meant to say. Now, if you do it with the x on the left or any variable on the left, like it is on the black that we've written earlier, you can just draw the same way the inequality is facing. Just make sure you don't make mistakes on your work, and you will have the correct drawing. Now, multiplying and dividing by a negative. This is what I was referring to when you flip the sign. Let's read what it says. When multiplying or dividing each side of the inequality by a negative number requires that the order of the inequality be reversed. So, for example, to reverse the inequality, you replace it with blank. Now it's saying to reverse, let's say greater than, you replace it with less than. If you have greater than or equal to, you replace it with less than or equal to. All it does is just flip the way the sign is facing. So when I divide right here by negative 4, I am dividing by a negative, therefore making this inequality flip from greater than or equal to less than or equal to. And it's going to be x is less than or equal to 6. This being your final answer. Now, if you were to graph it, I'm just going to graph it because we haven't done one with or equal to inequality. It's going to be a closed circle. And it's going to be to the left because x is less than or equal to 6. All right, so we divide by negative 5. It's going to take out the negative 5. We get y is less than or equal to 7. The sign flips because we're dividing by a negative. So it's going to become, when we graph it, 6, 7, 8. So closed circle and to the left. All right, guys, so to start this one, I'm going to add the 13. Now, because the 21 and the 13 are different signs, I'm going to end up subtracting, which gives me 8. So we get negative 4w is greater than negative 8. We're going to divide by negative 4 on both sides. It's going to flip the sign, so it's going to become w is less than 2. And then when we draw the inequality, 1, 2, 3, it's an open circle, and it's to the left. This is it for today's notes. You guys have homework. It's only 10 questions, and it's already on Canvas. You guys are welcome to start working on it.